All right, we are back. I am going to grab my notes. I'm having the hardest time getting into it today, everyone. So I'm here. I talked myself into it, into sitting down and recording. And I know that I always know that as soon as I sit down and start, it's totally fine and totally great. So just got to start it. As Nike says, just do it. And here we go. So before I jump into today's topic, just a quick life update. So I got home to Toulouse at the end of last weekend, and it's been really nice to be back at home and to get back into really the swing of work things, which is nice, especially after kind of time away, a little bit of non-work, non I don't know, just kind of being away, being on vacation mode, and really back into it, and ready to get productive and down to business and all that stuff. Over the weekend, we went to this amazing restaurant with one Michelin star, and it was my first time ever going to a restaurant that had any sort of Michelin star. I think there's up to 3 that any restaurant can have, and it was a game changer. Like, really, you definitely can understand why some of the food is, I don't know, just exceeds all expectations. And so that was a first for me, and that was exciting. And another little update. Oh, yes. So I have a new freebie on my website. It's a PDF resource guide kind of thing. It's pretty cute. It's my 5-step blueprint for starting and finishing any creative coding project. So if you want to get your hands on that, head on over to www.ladiescodecollective.com and grab that. You just got to sign up with your email address, and it'll be sent right to you, and you'll be able to really get to work starting and really following through on any creative coding side projects that you have, because I know that it's sometimes hard to really follow through once that initial excitement from beginning it wears off. All right, so we're going to get into the main content of this episode. I'm really excited about this one because it's something that I've really been thinking about more lately, especially when I get a little bit more stressed out feeling, in terms of feeling like I need to complete every single thing that's on my list of running projects. You know, we might tell ourselves that if we just like cross everything off and get to a sort of inbox 0 of our to-do list, everything's going to be okay. And the thing is, everything is totally okay now. I think that we just get a little bit wrapped up in wanting to achieve something like this, when in fact you're just always going to have running projects going on in your life. And so this episode is really around working more slowly or working slower to achieve your goals faster, or to achieve something faster, and it kind of goes against the intuitive thinking maybe that we need to work as fast as we can to complete our projects and just be able to complete more and more and more of them. But if we really turn it on its head, we can see the value in really focusing and going slowly on a certain topic or subject, and being able to really have the benefit of that full focus, and maybe even not having to focus on it for the entire amount of time. So in other words, if you have something that, well, I don't know, I might just jump into it. Let's just jump into it from my notes. I'm veering off the rails. So obviously, we all know how it feels to be pulled in all sorts of different directions when we're getting through our workday. We have our to-do list and we have our to-do items, and one thing leads to another, and then they just keep piling one on top of the other, and we end up getting altogether so worn out by the end of the day because of it. And we're never really able to focus fully and completely on one thing, because we're always trying to make progress simultaneously and multitasking on all of these different tasks. And so I've started to think more about the concept of working slower to achieve a goal in a faster and altogether more efficient way in the long run. And I know, as I said before, I know this can seem really weird and counterintuitive just hearing it, so bear with me during this episode. When I consider myself working frantically to finish all of my to-do items every single day, this is what it looks like. I make a list of every project area that needs doing in my life, and then I make myself feel like I'm working on all of it and getting it all done by working a little bit on each item, right? So I have 5 things on the to-do list, and I really get myself to feel like I'm making a lot of progress by doing a little bit on each of those 5 items. But here's the problem. It's that I'm kind of feeding into an illusion I create for myself. It feels like I'm achieving everything or learning everything I need to know, or getting really solid work done on every little task. But the reality is that I never actually ship or do anything, right? Like on the other hand, if I'm learning something, if I'm going through some sort of course, it feels like I never actually retain anything because I'm rushing through it, just trying to get on to the next thing and to, move on. So the thing is, we get so wrapped up in wanting to have everything done that we never actually do anything. And this actually happened to me last week when I was working on all kinds of different things for Ladies Code Collective. I had to design some graphics. I had to pull together a webinar that I'm going to be hosting this week. And so finally, as I felt that stress mounting, I just had to sit myself down and commit to only working on one thing each day from literal start to finish, to hold myself accountable for actually shipping the items that I'd planned to. And it's kind of a revolutionary thing because, I think we grow up, we go through school and whatnot, and we're kind of made to believe that multitasking is actually a strength, when in reality, I think the true strength is in single tasking and in really focusing on something from start to finish and then moving on to the next thing. And there's this really great article, actually, side note, it's from a blog called Cup of Joe, I think, and it's like the joy of single tasking, and so I'll definitely link it here. It's a really sweet ode to single tasking and to really giving our attention to just one to-do task item at a time. So working more slowly to get there faster, or working slower to get there faster, always comes back so much in coding or learning to code or working on some sort of coding project. Personally, I always talk about not giving up on learning just because a certain programming concept isn't like sticking right from the get-go. And I think I've had a podcast episode on this a few back, about not, stopping to learn JavaScript after 3 weeks of after starting it. But my question is, could it be that we're not always 100% invested in learning something slowly and completely rather than just quickly and always grasping for more? Like more knowledge, more expertise, but just in a really short and, not really realistic amount of time. I want to share something that a coach of mine said, and that I always find myself, mentally returning to when I have items on my to-do list to do, or, if I'm finding myself getting impatient about not getting better at programming quick enough almost. So this is what she said. What if there's no rush? You'll still be a human with the same experiences when you're a master at all the things you want to learn. So while you may have a fun goal that you're working towards, there's actually no need to rush your way there. What if you could just make a plan and take your time and enjoy getting there? What if being willing to work on things less and go more slowly actually gets you there faster? Isn't that amazing? I love that. And I always come back to it again, like I said, when I'm getting a little bit stressed, when I'm feeling that pressure mounting, I just return to that. And I love that idea of just enjoying getting there and working slowly, but also like making sure that the whole experience of that work is deep and enjoyable and difficult and challenging, but also very rewarding in the end. When we're working in a full-on frenzy to do and finish and move on to all the things, we miss out on the opportunity to truly engage in the deep work that actually moves us forward in the direction we want to go. Right? So I think of the slow but fully present work as consistent forward process, no matter how long it takes. And then I think of the fast and frenetic work as us constantly turning around in circles, turning and turning and turning, and yet never actually taking any steps forward. In my personal life, my coding life, I'm currently working through an ebook with lots of practice exercises around the React framework, and I'm focusing on really going slowly on it in an attempt to truly let the lessons sink in. And this is so revolutionary for me because I feel like before I was always someone who, again, wanted to learn everything as quickly as possible so that I could just achieve that level of expertise and mastery just quickly. But it's like sometimes you just wonder why. I don't know. I don't know if it's a means to an end or like what if that's I don't know if that applies to this, but why? Why does it need to be in some feelingly or seemingly objective, quickly? I don't know. It's so strange, and I forgot where I am going with this. So as I'm editing it, it'll hopefully circle back around. But I've had a few false starts in the past with learning React, and so a few months ago when it really wasn't taking, I told myself that okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to really focus on the JavaScript fundamentals. And now that I'm taking another dive into React, I am really realizing just how invaluable it is to take that time and to truly absorb the lessons. And really, this can all be connected back to time and moving too fast instead of just slowly enough, right? Like in the past, if I wasn't in such a rush to dive into React without having a really strong understanding and foundation of JavaScript, which JavaScript is the foundational programming language that the React framework is built on, then I wouldn't have wasted that time on diving in when I may not have been ready to do so, right? Like I could have just already known that you need this strong, solid foundation in JavaScript before you try to tack on learning a framework about it. And going back to that as well, when I say wasted, in quotation marks and with a huge grain of salt, I don't think time is wasted when you're learning something, but in terms of in the context of this episode, it definitely makes sense of like, okay, instead of trying to jump in to learn all the things at once, really take the time to build upon and to learn the foundation slowly and fully, and then build upon that in the same way in order to have an overall more effective learning strategy. So, this week, I want you to focus on slowing down in your work. Really, especially when you feel yourself getting a little bit frenzied with all the things that need to be done. Just kind of think about this. Nelson, stop. Just kind of think about this episode and think about this message and ask yourself, if I truly slowed down and focused only on this thing, how much more quickly in the long run could I move on to the next thing and get good at what I need to be getting good at, and then really zeroing in on that more holistic knowledge of something. If you're learning something new, really make sure also that you're applying this as well, and you're taking the time to sit with unfamiliar concepts, writing them down and mapping them out and truly going through each individual exercise instead of just reading it over and then thinking that you know how to do something just in your brain. Really really take the time and really make sure that you end up retaining no wait really take that time and sit with those unfamiliar concepts so that you end up retaining them more quickly than you would if you were only just kind of half-heartedly buzzing through them in an attempt to move on to the next thing. And that's about it for the core content of this episode. Again, just another shout out to my new freebie. If you want to grab my 5-step blueprint for starting and finishing any creative coding side project, just head over to www.ladiescodecollective.com and pick that up. Other than that, have an amazing week, my friends, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.